sorry, Anjali, can you just give me 1 sec to introduce one of the person who's Raja. He
Yeah.
is one of the very talented resource, and I would say a senior architect kind of a person towards the Azure platform.
Yeah.
I think he
That would be
has
great.
just
Yeah.
Raja, did you join?
Yeah, hi there, Raj. How are you?
Hey, I'm
Hi, team.
we're so happy to have you on this
Hi, Raja.
platform.
Hi.
So it's me, Anjani from India, Mohit from Germany, who will be uh, giving the show, and then we have Dheeraj, uh, my partner from US, and then we'll have maybe Rick joining from UK and Bhaskar joining from India. So and we have hundred of other audience friend um, who are here. So I welcome you aboard from all of these people on behalf of all of these people.
Yeah, Raja, Raja was very excited after seeing this session details, and he said he's very interested to be in part of this. Being a same background, what we have, especially towards the data side, and very expert Azure and the whole stack in there.
Yeah,
So I invited him to be a part of this.
this is great. Like we'll hope to hear more from you. Maybe we can invite you in some sessions from us, and
Yep.
we'll get a chance to listen you on your experiment. And this platform is built for that. That we share. We all are engineers here. Nothing less, and we are raw kind of guys. So we talk more objective or more value-driven thing, and obviously it's little raw here. So it's not so polished, but yeah, we love it. So yeah, so shall I start now? I think it's already 9:04, so we'll
Yeah,
start.
let's go.
So yeah, so hello everybody, all of you, all of the guys joining from all over the world. This is your host Anjani Kumar from Multi-Cloud for You, and this is the session is with Mohit Chhabra, and this is on Azure Bastion host, which is a PaaS service now. And initially, like in the past, if you see, we had to do a lot of work to deal with those kind of security setting, like creating the jump box. Obviously, in the most of the part of the world, it's called jump box yet still. And if we talk about most of the architect or the solution architect who design Azure would obviously design the way it was built before, one of the server and the public facing a lot of firewall inside, and then most of the server in the back in the private IPs uh, connecting to the militarized zone. So Azure Bastion provides secure and seamless RDP SSH connectivity to your VMs directly in the Azure portal over SSL, and that's the beauty of it. And that makes you very easy to plan your thing ahead and make it very easy to connect to different server across without making everything public. So if I move next, so about multi-cloud for you, what do we stand for? So we are evangelism and community platform at first, and obviously we are a bridge between corporate and startups. That's our motto, that bring up more and more startups, engineering team, because we know that the world has changed and the more and more innovation are happening in startups. But there are things that we need to connect the real corporate guy who are in the corporate with the startup so that both of them get benefited from each other. We try to bring real engineer out of their bunker, the way we try to interact with the people, the way Dheeraj what Raja introduced, and that's our motto, that to bring more and more engineers who are working, who are doing great thing, but they don't get a chance because of their busy schedule and a lot of other things to come on this platform and talk and actually help each other. We guide the engineering community. We are a consultancy platform, community platform, product and research group. Uh, we mostly focus on multi-cloud and data, but that's not just a part of it. We do multi-cloud strategy, we do data science and AI, we do blockchain, do extreme engineering, and we have actually started building product on it. So, and research is not just doing sessions or something. We actually realize in terms of value. Uh, sorry, so what is happening? Let me see. Yeah, so we are, if I talk about the impact, it's almost, we have touched almost all the habitable continent, and obviously this screen is a little laid up, but it covers almost all part of the world. Certificate recording and content for this session is available on our proprietary platform. This is Fifth IR, and you just have to search Fifth IR plus Mohit on Google. Yeah, just Fifth IR plus Mohit on Google, or Fifth IR plus Bastion or plus Azure Bastion. I think best is the Fifth IR plus Bastion, and it will take you to the help you to take you to the link where the recording streaming currently is happening and everything. Uh, this is fifthir.com. As you see, we are low on lights and camera, more on value. This SaaS-based driven platform, we connect technologies from startup and corporate here. It's a transitional support to Fifth IR. Our motto is to make the engineering community ready for the transitional transformation induced due to shifts generated by upcoming Fifth IR. We're planning to bring out a session on what are the changes and what are things that are being induced and how we can improve it and what we have foreseen in the future with my personal experience working directly with the high-tech industries. Uh, this is our event calendar for this month. For next month, we have a special guest, Bob Ward from SQL Server team, Azure SQL coming up. This month, we call up Anna Abhishek Mishra, who is a regular speaker on different platform. Mohit, today's session. Then we'll have a startup founder, Prashant Mishra. He is a successful startup founder. He runs Click to Cloud as a company. There are more than 100 people in his company, and they have built many cloud migration enterprise level software that people can get benefited with. Now we have Bhaskar Tripathi, the data science expert researcher. He will be coming on Saturday, 3:30 p.m. GMT next week, and then we have Anand joining us for giving a session on customer data platform. CDP is one of the hottest topic, and you must hear him. And he's the head of capital. He's head of data product from Capital One. This session is by Mohit Chhabra, Secure Azure VM with Azure Bastion PaaS, and I would like Mohit to take from here. And obviously, certificate is there on the session. We'll announce the passcode for certificate once the session finishes. Mohit, it's all yours.
Perfect.
So if I talk about Mohit Chhabra is Microsoft MVP. He's the most valuable professional. He is Microsoft Azure software engineer. He's currently in Media Lesson GMPS in Germany, and he was one of the youngest MVP when he got that, and he gives session across all over the world, and he's a master in Azure. There are a couple of other sessions of Mohit on our platform, and they are one of the hottest topic that he talks on the security. And you can go and search. If you simply search Google with Fifth IR plus Mohit, you will see a couple of sessions that Mohit has given, and they are one of the hottest search topic on our platform. I am Anjani Kumar. I am inventor, leader, mentor, founder in Labrador. I am the chief evangelist of multi-cloud for you. This is my LinkedIn profile. I have multi-decades of direct service to the IT industry. I am ex-publicist, RBS, and Microsoft. We have with me my team, Bhaskar, Dheeraj, and Rick, joining from multiple different part of the world, and they are actually the host part of the host team. Over to Mohit.
Thank you, Anjani, for the warm introduction. I will just try to share my screen now.
Yeah.
I hope you are able to see my screen. Please, can we have a confirmation over here?
Yes.
Awesome. So I thank you, Anjani, for introduction, but I have some changes in the introduction, so I will give another round of introduction myself. So my name is Mohit Chhabra. I am a Microsoft Azure MVP. MVP means most valuable professional. I've been awarded like 3 years back, and since then, it's been a fun journey. I've been working on Azure from last 8 years almost. I started working on Azure when it was just a baby, and now it's a gorilla that is in this big cloud universe. Azure is coming out to be one of the premium players. And during the last 7, 8 years, one of the biggest issue that I've seen following with any cloud platform, whether it's AWS or Azure, is that you have to keep on top of those platforms because these platform innovates and then changes frequently. For me, it's been one of the challenges, and I think sessions like these help me to understand as well, because if I have to present something, I have to learn that and update myself on that topic specifically to present it to the audience. Also, listening to these sessions from my favorite speakers is also a pleasing experience because I, as an individual, cannot go to different parts of Azure, different parts of technologies myself, and just via listening to the other speakers, it helps me to understand and learn different technologies. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity that we have to present and then run. And I would like to thank all of you who has taken time on a Saturday morning, afternoons or evenings, according to wherever you're attending from. But you are taking out time on a weekend to learn something, and it's a great opportunity for me to present to the audience who is just passionate about learning on this technology. Talking about myself, I am working as a global operations lead in configured GmbH. So whatever slide that Anjani presented has been updated now. I've changed my company. I am working in a company called Configured GmbH in Germany. I blog on a site called azureguy.in. So all my updates, basically you can find it on azureguy.in, and you can follow me on Twitter at Mohit_Techie as well, and reach out to me if you have any issues regarding Azure. I will be happy to look into it and help you out. Also, I own one of the biggest community on Azure, so which is not mentioned on the screen. My community name is Microsoft Azure for Beginners. It's on Facebook. I am going to repeat the name for it: Microsoft Azure for in numeric for and beginners. So that's the name of it. We have more than 48,000 engineers from all over the world who are part of that community that I built, and it's growing rapidly. We are adding more than 10,000 people every 6 months from the last 1.5 years, I would say. So it's been very fun ride, and I'm seeing that the adoption of Azure is increasing day by day. So talking about the issues that we are going to fix with Azure Bastion, uh, before I go into that, I just want to leverage it to everyone that we are trying to solve a security program with Azure Bastion, and we are going to talk about what is Azure Bastion and what is the security program that we are solving. But before I go into there, I just want to say this, that security in cloud platforms is a shared responsibility. What does it mean? When I say it's a shared responsibility, it's a shared responsibility between the cloud provider. In this case, it's Azure, it's Microsoft for us, and the consumer. And here the consumers are us. So whenever we are working with Azure, it's not that the whole security is taken care by Microsoft. It depends upon what kind of platforms that you're using, whether you're working on a PaaS platform or a IaaS platform or a SaaS platform. But mostly it's always said that it's a shared responsibility, because even in all three of the platforms, it's not something that Microsoft as a cloud vendor can control everything. It's your responsibility as well to make sure the systems that you are designing you are designing them in a secure manner. Also, in a SaaS environment, you are putting on passwords which are secure. You are not putting on passwords which is like hello at David 12345, which can be easily guess or troubleshoot. So you cannot hold Microsoft responsible for getting your account hacked. So it's always been a shared responsibility between the users as well as the provider. But we are going to look into IaaS part of it today, which is infrastructure as a service part. And whenever I'm going to say IaaS, I mostly will mean virtual machines for the rest of my day. So what is the program that we are trying to solve? We have a program with how we administrate the virtual machines on Azure, and it's the issue is not just on Azure, and we will see that we are trying to solve an issue which is not just related to Azure, but also to any other platform that is over there. So if you are running your virtual machines on Azure, you need to manage them, and then the risk of security also lies on your plate. So we can access your virtual machines either via RDP, it's natively runs on TCP 3389 port, or you can access them via SSH on port 22. Now both of them can be now one of the reasons can be in the primary, and some of the virtual machines can be another reason, but that doesn't matter, because whenever you're assessing it, you have to expose these ports uh, for you to assess those machines, right? Now the issue with this is, like, the hackers also knows that you might have exposed this RDP 3389 port or SSH 22 port, and they will try to penetrate into your system with these ports. There are option of overriding these ports with your custom numbers, and that also is something that we are going to look into it now. We have different tools which can do the port scanning. So if you are trying to get into a network, and then they can put this port scanning tool, which will basically scan all the network and see on which port number you're running your RDP, you have your RDP open, or you have your SSH ports open. So it's basically it's an added security layer if you basically don't use the default ports associated with them, but if you override them with some custom ports, it it's going to make the life of the hacker difficult, but it's not impossible to hack it again, because it's quite easy to identify the port just by running a port scan onto your network. So uh, the idea, and whenever I say security, I just want to clarify one thing, that whatever is on internet is not it's cannot be secured. Okay, the only thing is we have to make it difficult for hackers to get in, and if we cannot design a solution which cannot be hacked. It's practically impossible, if you ask me personally. We can only make it more and more difficult for the hackers to get in. So the other issue that we have with this kind of effort is brute force attack. So we can have brute force attack on those ports that can bring down the whole system. Why does it happen basically? What is brute force attack? Brute force means sending so much of requests onto the system that the system is not able to handle them, and then ends up in taking down the system. For example, if you have seen, we all used to have college results or school results, and whenever the results used to come out, the whole colleges or the whole students community basically goes to that website, and the website goes down. That is like you can identify it a brute force attack as well, because a lot of people are accessing a resource which does not have the capacity to serve that number of requests, and it ends up in going down. So this is simulated, this kind of load is simulated in a brute force attack, so that the system goes down to, it can be basically to to damage the environments, I would say, because you can have your competitors and then you can run a brute force attack to on them and then take them down for some time, so that the users on your competitors platform can come to you. Although whatever I'm saying right now, it's illegal, but it's still it's still unethical practice that we have seen across industries that people are doing. So as a company ourselves, as a cloud provider ourselves, or as an infrastructure engineers ourselves, we have to be ready for those kind of scenarios whenever it comes. So we saw that there is an issue, but how do people work with this issue right now is something that we should look into now. So let's say we have a hybrid cloud setup. So in a hybrid cloud setup, what happens is you have some part of your applications running on Azure, and some part of it is still running on your on-premises network. What we do is we can set up a virtual network gateway, which can be a site-to-site VPN setup from your on-premises to your Azure virtual network, and then you can access the virtual machines over here in the web subnet through these machines that you have your on premises network. Because when you set up this virtual network, you basically make them a part of the same network what you are running it on premises. So what happens is these machines are not exposed to the internet. These actually act as the same network, and then both of them can communicate to and fro. Depends upon how you set up this VPN gateway. But the idea would be that the machines which are part of your on-premises network should be able to communicate with the machines that are part of your virtual machines in Azure or any other cloud platform, for example. So the issue with this is a good solution, but you have to manage this virtual network, and then you have to pay for this virtual network, which is also like one of the expensive solutions. And you can also have a solution with Express Route, which is a direct connection from your data center to Azure data center. So you have your dedicated line associated with you, and then you can make sure that, okay, this line is purely secure and no one can get into the middle and then steal the data out of it. So there are a lot of attacks what happens, and that's why while communicating or transferring of the data, that people can come in and sift your data and then your data can be secured. That's why I'm not sure if you guys know that this is one of the difference between HTTP and HTTPS. Like the secure the whenever you're making this HTTP call with a S in it, that means it's a secured call and the data is encrypted, so that if once someone is trying to get into the network and then steal or sniff the data, they will not be able to because the data will be encrypted. So similarly, you have this express route where you have a dedicated line associated with it, and the data in it is only associated to you. So it's purely secure, but it's of course very costly as compared to what we have with site-to-site VPN. So if you don't, or if you cannot support, or if your company cannot pay for this kind of setup, and if it doesn't make sense for you to have this kind of setup, then I would say go ahead with site-to-site VPN, and then have this gateway as a communication between the on-premises virtual machines as well as the virtual machines in the Azure. So the issue that we have seen is, I think most of you might be aware of it, or most of you might have it in your infrastructure as well, that you have virtual machines with a public IP address. And whenever you create a virtual machine in Azure, it associates a public IP address for you by default if you don't change the settings to it. And it is scary. It is very scary. I hope you guys are not using public IP addresses in your production environment or even any other environments as well. I would not advise anyone to have public IP addresses, only because if I can access your virtual machines from a public IP address which has a public IP address, I will be able to put a lot of load. For example, I can run a brute force attack and then try to basically crack the username and password from it with a brute force attack, right? Because I can have a lot of tools which generates the common username and passwords, and then try to generate the password from those tools, and then take the whole systems down. Or I can get into the system. I can try to break the system with different methods. So I would say that try to have try not to have public IP addresses, because it is the biggest security issues if you ask me personally. And I would not advise to you and for anyone to use a public IP address onto your systems at all. You can have different sort of peerings into virtual network, but still if even one of the machines has a public IP address, then they will be able to get into this machine and then maybe communicate with the machines over in this virtual network as well, which makes it difficult because you only need one weak link into your system to crack the whole system itself. And this is one of the challenging part as a security professional, to identify the weakest link into your system and then secure that as well. Because even if you have one machine which has a public IP address, if hackers get access to this, they already have the access to this application running in here for sure, but also they have the access to another virtual network because somehow they are peered. So because of this peering, they can take out this virtual network as well, and then the application running over here as well. So the idea is to make sure that we don't have public IP address in place at all, uh, and so that the system is much more secure. There's another option over here, which I am personally not a fan of this solution, to be honest. And I will be happy to discuss with anyone in the call, or anyone, if you see this video afterwards, to reach out to me, and then we can have this conversation why this is not secure. And if you have a counter points to it, I will be happy to listen to them. The idea over here is that you can have a Azure load balancer in place, and then this Azure load balancer has a public IP address, and you access the virtual machines through this Azure load balancer via netting through the load balancer. So that means you access this load balancer IP, but it will go to this all this servers behind the scene. It's also known as hub and spoke setup. If you know networking, you will know what I'm talking about right now. It's also called security through obscurity. I, I would say it's a good solution, but it's not the cleanest solution with the current infrastructure. It was okay like few years back, if you ask me. With the current kind of infrastructure, I would not like to go ahead with this setup. And if you think you have some another counter arguments, I will be happy to listen to them. But I am personally not a fan of it. It's my personal opinion or my personal understanding, I would say. The other option that we have is what Anjani told about in the starting. It's called jump box. What is a jump box? Jump box is a virtual machine which is part of the same virtual network or same infrastructure, I would say, which has a public IP address to it. If you see here, mm, it has a public IP attached to it, and then we can access this system from outside. And this system has the access to the all the systems inside because they're part of the same virtual network. If you see from here, so this is running it in a management subnet, but then we have different subnet and different kind of applications. You can have your data real subnet which SQL running it on, or AD subnet which ADDS servers running on it, or your business tier subnet where we have your backend running, or you have can have web tier subnet where you have your front ends running. But you, in order to assess this, and whenever say I'm saying this front ends or backends, I'm mostly talking about virtual machines. So if you have to assess them, then you have to go through this jump box because they are part of the same virtual network, and only this has the public IP address. So this is a solution that is basically there right now, which is majorly used across different industries. And I'm not saying that this issue or this is a solution that is used only on Azure. This is the same solution that's been used for your on-premises data centers as well. But there are some issues with it. And what are the issues? That we have another resource to secure, another resource to administer, another resource to manage, troubleshoot, backup. Uh, so we have to manage this. It's an additional responsibility on our shoulders. And personally, I don't like to have more responsibilities on managing the stuff. I like to focus on my business application, and I want to have more managed solutions from my cloud provider to take care of stuff from me, to lower down the burden on my shoulders to make sure that we are running it in the most secure way. So what is a solution? Solution is something called Azure Bastion. So what is Azure Bastion? Azure Bastion is nothing but a managed jump box. It's a PaaS solution. What does it mean? It means that it's a platform as a service that Microsoft is providing to you. You have the same virtual network. You have a same server, but this server you don't have to manage. You don't have to take a backup. You don't have to patch it, for example. You don't have to troubleshoot. You just have to have this Bastion in the same virtual network, and this can access the virtual machines uh, in the other subnets that we have. It can be web subnet, your data subnet, or whatever. So so only it's only 443 is exposed to the internet. You can access to 443. What does it mean? 443 is a HTTPS, so you can only access uh, this from the Azure portal to 443, and then it accesses the virtual machines inside, but it does not have any public IP address access to these virtual machines. So we are removing the risk of having these public IP addresses from the system. Having said that, we will have a public IP address associated to the Azure Bastion, but you don't have to worry about the security of it because Microsoft takes care of it, because we are using something called Azure Bastion, which is nothing but a managed dump box. So Microsoft takes care of securing it. Microsoft takes care of patching it and managing it behind the scene. And I don't personally know that what kind of protocol, whether they are using RDS, RDGV behind the scenes to authenticate the user and passwords to Azure virtual machines. And I don't know, and I don't care. That's the beauty of it. Even if I don't know about it, what they are using behind the scenes, I don't have to know what they're using behind the scenes, because all I need to do is configure this passing, which can be used to securely access these virtual machines. And that's the whole idea of using cloud to push all uh, get more stuff or give the responsibility to the people who knows what they are doing, especially and have some domain experts to take care of those things for you instead of you figuring out everything or reinventing the wheel. We also have something called JIT. JIT is basically just-in-time VMSS. It's a part of Azure Security Center. So I think it's a good solution as well. But the idea is that you basically have just-in-time access. What as the name suggests, that only the access to the system for a specific period of time. You can configure it and then say that okay, only this IP addresses should be able to access the system. For example, you can whitelist your IP addresses for your office, or if you are now working from home, you can add that IP address of your system and then allow it, and then you can have some sort of time frame associated with it. In this, I've said that okay, allow it for 3 hours, and then you open the ports for 3 hours, and after 3 hours, the ports will automatically be closed. So this is also a very good solution if you ask me, but it's a complementary solution to Azure Bastion, and I think it's more of a homework for you to go back and then look into the actual differences and what makes more sense for you to use, whether it's JIT or whether it's Azure Bastion. If you're using something called Azure Security Center, I would like to tell you that you can look into it quite well, and it can be a good solution for you. As I said, JIT and Bastion are most of them, both of them are like complementary to each other. So you can access the Bastion directly from the Azure portal itself. And I think I have gone enough of talking right now. It's time for me to show you some demos. Give me a second. So as I said, this is completely secured and managed through Azure portal. So the first level of security is basically with your Azure credentials. I think I am in the wrong account. That's why I am in my company account. So I need to switch to my personal account. Let me log in. Now I'm logging through my personal account, and it's my duty, it's my responsibility to have a strong password over here, and keep on changing it from time to time to manage or to make sure about the security of this my personal accounts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a resource, Windows Server, for example. It's taking some time to load my subscriptions. I don't want you to know how much money is left with me. So I'm going to create a new virtual machine. Let me push it to each US. I don't need any redundancy. I'm just using this image. I think we don't care about the size as well. Let me put a strong password here. Okay. So I'm not going to make any changes. I'm going to just create a virtual machine, like without making any changes and providing the minimum stuff. We have a public IP over here, if you see by default. I'm going to create it and show you how it works if you're not familiar with it right now. If you see over here, we are getting a warning as well. You have set RDP ports to open to the internet. This is only recommendation for testing. If you want to change this, you can go back to basic tab. I am not going to change that right now. I'm going to show you what are the different options we have. And it's going to take a couple of minutes before it's done. We need to wait for it to complete. Normally, virtual machines deployment take a couple of minutes, and you're going to see that the Bastion deployment is going to take more time than deploying the virtual machine itself, because behind the scenes they're doing a lot of work. They're setting up a lot of things for you, and I think it's worth the time to wait for it, honestly. But I think this is done. Let's go to the resource. So if you see over here, I have this connect option. I can come here and show it to you as well. So I have this connect option and I have a public IP associated with it. I also have a private IP, but if I'm part of the same network, I can access it through this private IP. But I can download this RDP. I am able to connect to this virtual machine via public IP address, which is, I've been restating myself that it's not safe. And I have this full desktop SP inside, and I'm getting inside the virtual machine and using it as a separate desktop for me. It's, but this is, as I've been saying, it's not safe. So what we will do is we will go to this IP address and I will go over here and I will disassociate this IP address. So I'm showing it through this because if you already have some virtual machines who have this public IPs to it, so that you know how to clean that up as well as set up Azure Bastion simultaneously. Because even if you set up Azure Bastion and you still have a public IP address associated to it, that will not help you out with anything, because you will still have the risk of getting breached from that setup. So while it's opening, I can open another portal. Perfect. So it seems to be disassociated. Perfect. It's disassociated. Let me come back to my virtual machine. Let me refresh this guy. It's gone. If you see over here, there is no public IP address associated to it anymore. And now the next step is to set up something called Bastion, which is here. If you scroll down to the operations tab, we have a Bastion option over here. So normally the naming convention that we use over here is to use the name of your virtual network, which is Bastion Demo 5th Net VNet, and then slash Bastion. It's a naming convention. Let me do Control Z. Yeah, it's a naming convention that Microsoft always needs and waits for you. But yes, you can change it as you just saw. But there is something that we cannot change, but that we have to create is Azure Bastion subnet. The name should always be the same. I have not tried it with small letters over here, but the behind the scenes, they, for this to work, the name has to be Azure Bastion subnet, because I think they search for this name and then manage its policies around it accordingly. But we are getting an error right now. Let's see what is this error. To associate a virtual network with a Bastion, it must contain a subnet with the name this, with a prefix of at least this. So what we have to do is we have to create a Azure Bastion subnet, but it says that it needs to have a prefix of /27, which means it needs to have 32 IP address associated it minimum. Minimum. It can be more. Over here, 5 are reserved IP addresses for Azure. So let's go over here and then create the subnet. Before that, let's do one thing. I will add some IP addresses here. 16.1.0/24. So I'm just adding 256 address spaces in the network. I will just use this network for, and not this address space, for managing the subnet. So let me create the subnet. Azure Bastion subnet 27. I can say that, okay, what kind of network security group that I have to associate it with. This one, because I just created this one, test VM Bastion NC. And then you can have it associate with different endpoints as well, what endpoints could be able to access it and all that stuff, but I'm not going to showcase that. I'm just going to save it right now. Let me do this way. Yeah. Cancel. And if you see, the error is no longer there now. So I can use the same existing IP address, or I can create a new one. I just choose to create a new one over here. The IP address has to be static because this is a IP address that you will be using, or the Bastion will be using for you to connect. Now it's going to take few minutes to set this up. Meanwhile, I can showcase you something over here. This is my previous setup. Let me go to Bastion and showcase to you. So I have few Bastion hosts. For example, here, if you come over here in the sessions tab, you can see how many different sessions are running. This is my previous Bastion that I've created for testing purposes, or my previous demos. Then if multiple people are using the sessions through Bastion, you will be able to see them over here and then access that through the routes as well. Also, this is quite good if you want to audit the Bastion, that who assesses who are using these virtual machines, or making changes to them, or making changes to the servers at what point of time. Also, there is a future capability that is coming into the setup, which is having a video recording as place. So whenever we are having this session, that means whenever we are connected to Bastion, to our virtual machines, to Bastion, there will be a video recording happening, so that if we make any changes, it will be easy for us to troubleshoot. Just go to the video again, see what changes we have made. So it's easier to revert back as well, because a lot of the issues that we have seen happens due to a misconfiguration on the server side. So we can rectify them and troubleshoot them very quick, instead of and also there would be accountability of who created this resource, or who basically made a change in the server that caused the issue. So it basically gives you much. It puts you in a situation where you have much more control over the administrative part of your servers, as compared to what you have with Jumpbox, for example. It's still running. Yes, it's running. So let us give some time to this to run it, and while it's running, I can come back to my side and tell you something about the the new capability just came out in a preview. So what used to happen is you need to have a separate Bastion setup for every virtual network, and that used to be very expensive, because uh, you need to manage different Bastion for different subnets, and might have a lot of virtual networks in your total environment. So what came out recently is we have a Bastion support for VNet peering, for which means that if you have this Bastion subnet, and then it can assess the system which is over here and which is over here, which means it's, and these two are different private virtual networks, but these are peered to uh, this virtual network which has a Bastion in it. So here, this virtual network which has a Bastion in it will act as a hub network, and whereas the other virtual network will act as a spoke network for you. So it will have a hub spoke setup, and you access it to together as to Azure portal, and then access the subnet, this Azure Bastion to this virtual network, and then can access different virtual machines in different network because we have a VNet peering enabled over here. So this is a much needed feature that a lot of people, a lot of users requested. I was one of them as well who raised this as a feedback to Microsoft, and then they identified it to have it in the system and then put it over there. So let me see if it's done right now. It's still taking some time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to wait for another minute for it to complete. If this doesn't complete, I'm going to jump back to another instance of Azure Bastion for that I have and showcase it over there. It might work as a, what to say, it might work as a cookie show where you see that, okay, we are now putting the cake in the oven, and the next second the cake comes out, so you don't have to wait for the cake to complete. We bake. Having said that, we have this done now, so it does not want me to go back to my old instance as a backup strategy.
Yeah, oh, it's created.
Yeah. So over here I have Boston, but before I connect to it,
And
let me.
I would like to add to the audience that if you have any question, you can put in the chat box, and I think
Oh,
Mohit
sure.
will be able to. It's very chat box is very silent. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, because I think they are able to understand everything,
Yes,
whatever I'm
yeah.
saying, or nothing at all.
That's what that yeah that's what we are assuming.
Yeah. So it's always the extrements. Either I'm
No,
very good or I'm very bad.
engineers are never so silent. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you, Sanjay. So over here, if you see, I don't have any public IP address associated to it. Uh, I I can come to the Bastion and use Bastion, which will put me to the same place. And I put on my credentials. So if you say that I am getting a pop-up that it wants me to allow text and images to be copied to the clipboard. That means I can only copy text and images right now. And it's, if you see, if you're able to see it over here, it's a desktop. It's not a desktop experience. It's open with me in a browser, in a web browser. So let me put it over here and see that it's using a web browser for me to connect to the server. I'm connected to the server in a web browser, and it's secured. My connection is secured because we're using HTTPS SSL connection at 443. So it's secured, but it has its own pros and cons, I would say. The pros is definitely security, but cons is you cannot copy and paste your files. You have to only copy. You can only copy some sort of text over here. Let me, like, I had this copy in my memory, and then I will be able to paste it over here, and then from here I can paste it inside it, but similarly with text. But the issue over here is you cannot copy paste your files if you have some certificates or if you have some other files, which anyhow you shouldn't go to it. Should have file storage connected to it over here, and then copy it through them. And if you have certificate, it should be taken from Azure Key Vault, and you should allow these machines to access Azure Key Vault from your Key Vault policies, and should flow from there. But this is also a limitation right now. But this is one limitation that I'm going to talk about in my next slide, that it's going to go away in the future. But for now, it's only a desktop experience and not a full FDE experience or full desktop experience for you. So it's, as I said, it's much more secure option right now, because you are authenticated, you are accessing this Azure Bastion through your Azure AD credentials, which we make sure that is secure. We can consider it as a secure. Of course, if you have some passwords which can be easily cracked, then it's your responsibility. And even after using some sort of solutions like Azure Bastion, Microsoft will not be able to help you out because it's your responsibility to have a strong password. Or you don't leak your password and share it with people and then write it on your Facebook or something, right? And I think we all understand that because we all use so much of web technologies these days that everyone knows that it's a responsibility to have a strong password and then make sure of it. So having said that, let me come over here and show you that after connecting to portal which is secured with ADDS, then you can connect it to your virtual machines. And if it's a domain join, you can put your domain credentials as well to connect to it. And if you have the access, you will be able to connect to it using that. So all those things that you were traditionally using is available right now as well for you to use. And this brings me to the end of this demo, but I have some roadmap that I want to share with you, with the audience about Azure Bastion. So the native RDP sessions is still not possible, or native SSS session is still it's in preview. I haven't used it. I don't know about it, but the idea is that you will be able to download the RTP files directly like you're doing with your normal RTP sessions and then have a full desktop experience. You will have a full session recording for auditing, which is, I think, a brilliant idea because, as I said, that a lot of issues that we see with servers happens during the while we are configuring something in the server and then end up in misconfiguring it. So we can easily identify what changes did we make and then you can easily fix them. It had happened with me as well that one of the changes, one of the registry settings that I made in a server ended up taking down my system for a few hours that we didn't realize when we were making it at that moment of time. And it's a human error, but it can happen to anyone or it can happen to the best of us, I would say. So with this recording, it will be easier to go through it and then see what changes we made so that we easily can audit it and then fix it and troubleshoot it. Also, you can have a single sign-on with MFA enabled to it in the future. So you will not be able to put this password again and again. You will have a single sign-on capabilities to the system. Also, we will have a PIM integration. I am not sure if everyone is aware what PIM. PIM is Privileged Identity Management, and it means that you have the capability of PIMing yourself, or in other words, you have the capability of increasing your current status to another level. And what does the status means? I mean your roles over here. So you can go to your Azure Active Directory, or you can go to your Azure resources and then increase your access. For example, you can have a reader access by default, and you can pim yourself to have a contributor access whenever you want to make some changes. So those all capabilities will also be integrated with Bastion going forward, so that you cannot directly access the your virtual machines, but only when you pim yourself or increase your role, increase the capacity or capability, sorry, then only you will be able to access those environments. And also private IPs, because right now we have the public IPs associated with the Azure Bastion. If you remember when we created this Azure Bastion host, we have a public IP associated with it. So we can have a private IP associated with, and then we can connect directly to Express Route or site-to-site VPN to it. So these are the capabilities that we have as a roadmap, which will be there for soon into the system. I'm pretty sure that the Boston team is working hard to bring them on board as soon as possible. I don't have a timeline with me when they're going to come out, to be honest, because I work with Microsoft as MVP, so I get a lot of insights from them. But there are a few stuff that I cannot share, that I'm not allowed to share when it comes to timelines. So, but I can tell you that one thing, that it's going to come out whether it's going to come out soon. So if you are planning to use it in the near future, I think, and you can count on it that these capabilities will be enabled soon in the system for sure. With that, it brings me to the end of my demo and end of my session. And I'm now open for questions, and I will be happy to answer any of your questions. Angie, can you check if you have any question right now?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. So, guys, one question is there. I think you would have answered is, as you have mentioned that Bastion work on 443 port, but have I missed if you have set the port anywhere when creating Bastion to access VM?
I cannot see the question. Let me see. What was the question? Can you repeat it for me?
It's in the chat. Hi Mohit, as you have mentioned that Bastion works on 443 port, but have I
Mhm.
missed if you have set the port anywhere when creating Bastion to
No,
access
no,
VM?
no. You haven't missed anything. This is something that is there by default. So I never mentioned it in my Azure portal that it to use 443 because it's automatically, or the Bastion subnet automatically knows that it has to use 443 on default.
Yeah. And any other question, guys? Obviously, um, uh, Mohit will be more than happy to answer your any queries or confusion if you have anything. Obviously, demo had a lot to think. Yeah, how to access Bastion on the internet? So through public IP, right?
Yep.
Through public IP. Um, any other questions? Okay, so in the meanwhile, we try to find more question, and I would like to announce the certificate code for this session. So let me share my screen again. Shall I do that, Mohit?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So just trying to share that up. So the certificate code is speaker code is MCCHHAB. It's all in caps. You can see MCHHAB. And how to claim it, like I will take you to the portal directly, and you can either you can claim it with your code, or there are different ways to claim it. Just give me a moment. I will take you to the link. So on your browser, you can type this link, or if you are having difficulty, you can just go to fifthir.com and search for Bastion. So it will take you to the recording, certificate, everything. So you'll see the course. You can register it from here. And then you will get that details. Once you register here, you'll get the details. So I have actually tested it, and therefore I've got the certificate. This is our test account, but you will see this cap icon from here. See the streaming would also be happening here based on the setting, and you will be able to get your certificate from here. That speaker code, which is MCHHAB, it's all caps. It's all in caps, MCHHAB. Let me put that into your chat window. If someone can put it. So there is another question that has come up, which is like, where can we get? So there is another question that has come up, which is like, where can we get more info around more detail on the Microsoft Learn? Any suggestion on Bastion?
Sure. So you can go through the Microsoft documentation, but I am copy pasting a module which is on the Microsoft one, which you can go through. It's a free exercise, and then you can create one of your own Bastion account and pay with it. And it has a step-by-step procedure on how you should deal with it. So I'm sharing the link in the chat right now.
So it's doc.microsoft.com. Again, Universe Learn, that's default, and then connect DM with Azure Bastion. So Saurav
That's
says
it.
thank you. Any other question, guys? Okay, so I'll
Yeah, we have another question from Mohammed Sharik. The question is any limitation on sessions while assessing through Bastion. The limitation that I have told about is basically that you don't have a full desktop experience. That means you cannot copy paste your files. You cannot access it as a full desktop. Instead, you have a limited desktop experience to web browser. So you have to access those your virtual machines through browser, and you cannot copy paste your file. That is the biggest limitation right now, which is also going to go away in the future though.
yeah. Any other question, guys, before we close? Okay, so Mohit, I think it's a good time to close up now. So thank you, guys. Thank you everyone for joining, and thank you, Mohit, for giving your time. It was a great session, and the recording and everything will be available on Fifth IR as I search. As I said, you just have to search Google with Fifth IR plus Mohit, or you can simply go on the website and then you can search for. You can go on Fifth IR website. You just have to search for Bastion, or
Yeah, thanks all.
search by the speaker name. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks to you as well, and Anjani, and thanks to all the other organizers to create this event and then provide this knowledge to the community. So thank you everyone for inviting me for this session, as well as everyone who have attended as well, to take out time and then learn something over the weekend. So
Our
thanks
pleasure,
everyone.
Mohit. Thank you, Mohit.
Happy
Yes,
weekend
our
everyone.
pleasure, Mohit. Yeah.
Thanks,
Happy
Mohit.
weekend, everyone. Thanks. Bye.